Guys, welcome to the Startup Tank, the Swiss edition, where we bring on the world's top founders in front of our esteemed panel of investors. We bring a new panel every week so they can pitch their product, their vision, and try to raise funding. The Startup Tank is presented by Forward VC, our early stage syndicate focused on companies that move the world forward, pre-seed and seed stage climate companies that are really making big differences in the world. To learn more about us and what we do, please visit forward.vc. We also have some pretty interesting companies that we're looking at investing in via our accredited investor syndicate. You can find out more at forward.vc/syndicate. But we've had enough technical difficulties already, and we've got some incredible founders and investors on the program. So I want to jump right into things. We can do a little bit of promotional stuff later on, perhaps. But right now, it's time to jump into the tank. Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Good. Well, then, first things first, we've got to introduce our awesome, esteemed panel of investors. I'm going to ask you guys to turn your videos on now, and we'll highlight you as well with so everybody can see what's going on. First, we've got Claudius Stanbock on the program. Claudius is going to be joining the panel. He's an investor with Sparrow Ventures, and he's got a lot to bring because Sparrow, as most of you know, is owned by Migros, who owns more or less half of Switzerland. And as this is the Swiss edition, Claudius has an incredible perspective to share. If you're new to the Swiss system, you might not know about SICTIC. Everyone else probably does. The Swiss ICT Investors Club. Well, today we've got Director Thomas Ackermann on the program. Thomas, thanks so much for coming. And last but certainly not least, we've got Antonia Albert of Wingmen. Wingmen, one of the most innovative funds on the early stage when it comes to the Swiss startup scene. And I want to thank all of you and just take a couple of seconds to really introduce who you are, what your funds focus on, and give everyone a background on what you do. Do you want, Claudius, go first? Tell people a little bit more about Sparrow Ventures, Migros, and what you guys are focused on.
Yeah, perfect. In. Nice to meet you. Thank you, Matt, for organizing that. So yes, I'm an investment manager here at Sparrow Ventures, and we invest mostly in B2C startups here within Switzerland, and do it for, as he said, for Migros. Migros has a lot of capital, everyone knows that, and we are the venture capital arm for Migros. The verticals are also alongside the value chain of Migros, so everything Migros does, which is a bit more than just supermarkets. It involves fintech, health, sustainability. It's like all these subsidiaries that are owned by Migros, and we invest into promising startups within this space. And ticket sizes, they range usually from about 1 to 10 million, but it's very opportunistic, so everything is possible in the end. Because in the end, we're a strategic investor, and when the strategy matches, good things can happen.
And as in VC, all rules are off when you see them. Antonia Albert with Wingman. Wingman, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, sure. I would love to. Hi, everyone.
Wingman, what you guys look for.
Yes, I would love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Antonia. I'm the newest wing woman at the Wingman team. And we invest with Swiss money in Swiss companies. So in contrary to other VCs, like we have a super dense network here in Switzerland. We see ourselves as really like the first check into companies. So we do up to 1.5 million in pre-seed and seed rounds. We invest all across the board. So we are sector agnostic, so to say. So we do like all kinds of things. Our investment thesis is that we primarily invest in teams. Then obviously it has to be an interesting market, and the product should also excite people. We sit here in Zurich and Lausanne. We are a team of 8 people. Most of us have founded a company before. So we really try to support our founders and portfolio companies in the best possible way, from like doing the first hires to like the best, like go to market, the first campaigns, like, product market fit and so on and so forth. And always happy to talk to passionate people about new exciting ideas, and our doors are always open for that. Should I pass on to Thomas?
Yeah, I think let's go straight ahead. So my name is Thomas. I'm the managing director of SICTIC. Nice meeting you. Not jumping in? No.
Nice, Thomas. Now you're up, Thomas. Tell us all about SICTIC and what you do.
Good.
Thomas.
So SICTIC is Switzerland's largest angel investor network. which means so angels are people investing their own private money into early stage startups, right? Our focus is primarily or actually exclusively on Swiss startups, startups with a strong connection to Switzerland. The ICT focus is a bit more flexible, that can be interpreted because nowadays pretty much everything that is scalable has a bit of an ICT aspect. But in any case, the business model should be driven by technology. Our focus is very much on the early stage. So we were in the pre-seed seed stage with a maximum round size of 2 million and a maximum pre-money valuation of 8 million. That's more or less our sweet spot. We work closely together with a couple of VCs. So Antonia and Claudius, nice seeing you here as well. And this, of course, helps us to also get the large rounds over the finishing line.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Thomas. And now a little bit more about the startup tank. As we were saying earlier, we bring in top founders with great investors like these to highlight. Swiss puns planned. I was going to yodel and go Heidi, bring out the chocolate, and then all the technology went to the hell in a handbasket. So now we're trying to startup tank. We bring together top founders, top and see if we can make companies that move the world forward. Pre-seed, climate, and impact companies. And we've got a couple of those lined up today. Each of the companies presenting, all 7 of our 3 to 5 minutes on the clock to present their company. And then we're going to have a round of investor questions and follow up. And at the end of the night, we'll vote on a startup of the night, Swiss edition. So who will be crowned tonight? To be seen. Everybody ready to jump into the tank? I'll take the silence as a yes. Let's jump. We've got companies that are solving change, solving and changing the way that we. That's the why I'm such a big fan of moving here and being an adopted Swiss, so to speak. Is there's so much happening here. There's so many great people, so much great talent, and such a great network. And that's what this event featuring that and seeing what we can do to promote that. So first, I want to kick things off with a company that I met here through the Venture Lab in a Sweden. I know you're all hooked. Andre, I want to hand the mic over to you, so to speak. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing with Zario.
Hello, everybody. I really love this energy on this call. Let me start the screen sharing. Okay. Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody. My name is Andre, and I always had a problem of spending too much time on this device. And it took me quite some time to realize, and the kind of key moment was when after one call, I was working consulting, my boss approached me. She was like, Andre, you are really good, but you are too distracted and you shouldn't be spending time on Tinder when you are in meetings. And I was like, fuck, how does she know? It was after a virtual call, but kind of made me realize that I had a problem. And I started looking for solutions. And the solution that worked the best for me was eventually psychology, but it was a really cumbersome way to go. So then I started talking with Killian, my co-founder, and we realized that there were actually quite some people who had similar problems. So the Gen Z and Y spend on average 7 hours a day on their phones. And the issue is that while 70% are aware of this and 35% take steps to reduce it, 70% don't manage to do so. And so we decided to build a solution that could help them. And we said it needed psychology to help change the habits and gamification to make it fun. And that's how we came up with the app called Zario. We've launched it in March, and actually we have our big launch on Product Up this Thursday. So if you're there, please vote for us. And how it works, at the beginning, the user creates goals, and then the app creates a personalized journey. And then each user gets 3 challenges every day. And the challenges are anything from making your screen black and white to make your phone less visually appealing, to going for a walk, or coming up with a bucket list of things you could do. And then step by step, by doing a challenge every day, people replace screen time by real world experiences. We have one more super exciting thing in the pipeline, and that's a collaborative mode. And that's something like a combination between Alcoholics Anonymous and a Bundesliga. So we bring people together in a group where they work together and support each other, but we add a competitive dynamics so that we let them compete against one other team for 10 days. And this leads to a lot of engagement and people actually being able to complete the challenges and help them and having fun. We believe we are onto something big because we've been hearing tremendous feedback from our tester community. So for example, the last round, we had 90% of people finishing all 10 challenges in 10 days, which is a crazy high engagement rate. And we believe that's gonna be the game changer. Of course, there are other competitors. Most of them focus on monitoring restrictions. So kind of the iPhone screen time on steroids. But we believe that the only way to long-term change the habits is just by addressing the core, so the psychology. And that's why we see ourselves in here. But most of the other apps are kind of very scientific and not so much fun to use. And we believe if you want to compete with apps such as TikTok, you have to be gamified. And that's why we see ourselves in this segment. And we also believe that digital well-being is the next mindfulness. And we want to become the next Calm.com. Let me continue. How do we want to make money? Well, first of all, as any other app, a B2C freemium, but we also see interesting revenue potentials in employee sponsor challenges as an employee benefit, insurance sponsor challenges, such as therapy add-on, or also in the marketing or branding challenges. We have a team with complementary skills. Killian and I come from consulting, and we've been both building digital tools and crafting experiences. And Bartek is a very experienced developer who developed over 20 mobile apps and also led huge teams of developers. We have two advisors. I want to point out Severin because he's the leading expert on using digital tools to treat addiction in Switzerland. And we're going to start a pilot study with him in a couple of months. After we've managed to help people reduce their screen time and find better balance with their phones, we want to become the global platform that helps people to challenge each other to become better versions of themselves. So kind of to take a step further, not only phone addiction, not only reducing screen time, but getting better in any dimension you want. That's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Here is the QR code where you can download the app if you're interested. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, Andre, thanks so much for presenting. If you guys are in the audience, and you have questions, those in the YouTube live chat. That's just the startuptank.com/live. You can leave questions there and we'll open them up to our investor panel in a sec. The first question, the most obvious one I had for you is, Andre, how do you make money in the long term when you're helping unhook people from their phone? That's counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And we've been asking ourselves the same question. Our answer to that is people don't change their habits from day to day. So we see many features that are going to support people in the long term. For example, a feature that tracks the number of unlocks of social media apps that's going to help people stay on track and kind of monitor their behavior long term. We believe that there's going to be more intense phase in the beginning, such as when you switch to a new diet or start working out. But this is something that people have to keep on practicing. So we believe that's going to be light mode where people will just continue on a slower pace. We'll get some reminders. And the second answer to this question is we actually want to become the platform where people can challenge each other to do anything, because we saw really good results, really very positive resonance of this collaborative mode. And we believe you could use it basically for anything. So in the future, you could have authors of self-help books writing curricula of challenges that could be on a platform. And then, you know, people will never stop wanting to get better at something. So that's how we could keep the customers in a very, very long term. Did it answer your question?
In terms of
I don't hear you, man. I don't know if it's my connection here in the Czech Republic.
the pure
Man, it's not coming through.
It's to update itself, it ruins things. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I want to apologize first to everyone about the connection issues. That seems Zoom decided to have a new update that doesn't work. Advance. My other question for you before we hand it over to the invest panel would be, what do you see in terms of defensible network effects? Is there something that you have, or is this something that's going to be a pure marketing play where you have to outmarket and out design the competition, a la like a Snapchat outrunning Facebook?
Well, it's a tough question. We believe that with this collaborative mode and friends inviting their friends, we could create network effects. If you have a lot of friends who are part of the same network where you can see their performance, what they are working on, and especially if you can challenge your own friends on a specific challenge that you have. But on the other side, we see it's gonna be kind of a similar game like Calm or meditation, where it's just the kind of the first entrants who manage to find a solution that works for a lot of people, just invest enormous marketing budgets, and then that's how they win over the market.
Awesome, thanks for clarifying. And then Thomas, Antonia, Claudius, do you have questions that you'd like to ask Andre?
Sure. So my first question has been half answered. I'll circle back to that later, but what's your go-to-market strategy?
So we have kind of three pillars that we base it on. First one is built-in virality. So that's not something we have in the app already, but we have it planned. We want to have features where you challenge your friends, features where you get free premium for a couple of weeks, same as you could have it on Dropbox, for example, if you refer people. Second pillar is influencer marketing. We are now working with about 400 influencers that we've reached out to. We're getting feedback from them. And we want to build a scheme where every time an influencer refers someone who actually subscribes, they will get part of the subscription, by which we will make sure that we always stay profitable, no matter what the subscription rate is. And then the third pillar is normal standard performance marketing, where we're just gonna go for the channels that work the best for us and result in the lowest click-through rates. For us so far, it's been TikTok and normal search ads, but we still need this year to experiment more, understand what's actually the cheapest channel.
Antonio, Thomas, do you guys have any questions to add to that?
How much will you charge for it?
So currently we are thinking we would charge something about $60 to $80 per year, such as all the meditation apps and Duolingo do. When we were talking with our initial users, they were all saying like, hey, if the app would be cheaper than the other apps, they will be much more likely to subscribe. Which made us thinking, okay, maybe it would be an interesting way to just test it and do some A/B tests and see if we really achieve higher total revenues per 1,000 of users. But when we look into the market, there's no one doing this. So we don't know why, but there's no one charging like $20 or $15 or $30 per year. Everybody's kind of in the 60 to 90 space. So I believe after some experimentation, we're probably also going to end up there.
I'm just questioning myself whether people are ready to pay this $80. I mean, for the meditation apps, I see that because it has like several benefits, but for your app, it's only going to be like this one feature that you stay away from your phone. Just like intuitively what I think about that, but maybe I'm wrong here and I'm price sensitivity might be different.
Yeah, I think it also depends what kind of customers we're selling to, right? We see our primary customers are kind of women in their early 30s who spend excessive amounts of time on social media, but at the same time have a successful career and kind of the willingness to pay for an app that helps them. That's been one big group of our target customers. And then we verify there's really high perceived need. Another group of customers that we see, but where we still need to dive into, are kind of parents of Gen Z, because for them, the problem is high. And Gen Z actually sees it as a problem. So we had a lot of people in their teens, I would say 15 till 20, who participated in our challenges. And we believe if we create a nice journey, we could ask their parents to pay for it. So we kind of have the target user in the teens with the payer in the rows of parents who have the highest perceived need to fix it because they didn't grow with the phone. But it's still up to us to find out.
That's part of the go-to-market strategy to find that out for sure.
Yeah.
I have one last question, one quick one, and then I'll let you go, Antonia. Maybe regarding the competition, or less about the competition, but you said that some of them are too scientific, but then on the other hand, you said you also want to do a pilot study. Can you tell a bit more about that? Because in the end, like some people, if they want to use something like that, they want the scientific proof that it actually works.
Yeah, sure. So what I meant by too scientific is they are very focused on the contents and methods, but they don't make sure that much that it's fun. So what I compare it to is like buying a book. If you have the high level of motivation of reading a book, how to help yourself reduce phone addiction, then these apps are great. But if you are a teenager who's used to TikTok and getting super instant gratification, then it's just too tedious and doesn't work. But for us, it's also super important to do it. Everything we do is also science-based. We just try to turn it into more fun. And that's why to kind of get this validation, we're starting this pilot study with University of Zurich, hopefully financed by Gesundheitsförderung Schweiz, because they have a program that's targeted for it. And we have a partner at Radex here in Zurich. And there we just want to do a pilot study to see how it compares for people who don't use the app and who use the app. And it's going to be the first kind of foundation stone to do a big, larger study next year that could be financed by the Swiss government research funds.
There's potential as well to be an affiliate for other programs like etc. If you're off their phone, there's a lot of synergy. Do we have any other questions from the investor panel, or do we want to move on to the next company?
So one more question from my side. So just maybe you could tell me for myself. So you built this app because you use Tinder in a work meeting. Now you said your main target persona are women in their early 30s who have the willingness to pay for this app, but to help them. So now I would be your perfect target group. I'm a woman, I'm in my early 30s, but I can't really get my head around why I would exactly now use this. So maybe you could guide me again, like why exactly, like what would you help me with that I would pay 80 euros a year for?
Okay, so I mean, our target groups are people, and maybe you are not in this group, who have the compulsive reflex to reach out for their phone throughout the day, completely random situations, right? So these are people who kind of are working, doing something, and then they just reach out for the phone because their brain is so used to doing this that they no longer have volitional control over this. And for these people, if they set themselves restrictions in the iOS that block certain apps, this mechanism in the brain is still there. So even though they block Instagram and they block maybe Tinder or whatever, yeah, it doesn't matter which app it is for you. For some people can be email, for some people can be news. They will still be reaching out for the phone because the brain will be asking them for distraction. And what we can help you with is to realize why you're doing this and then make it harder to kind of reach out for the phone and do the behaviors you don't want to do. And then we make it easier for you to spend the time on the activities that make sense to you, such as you say, well, you want to be more social, and maybe that's the reason why you go to social media, but doesn't actually fulfill the need of community and friendship. So we give you ideas how you can, I don't know, organize a phone-free dinner with your friends, or check which friends have birthday and write them a really nice personalized message or letter. There are like so many ideas in the app, and you always get a selection of 3. So then you can kind of get what you want out of the app.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. We got to cut off this one and move on to our next startup of the night to make sure everybody gets a chance. Sorry about the technical difficulties on my side, guys. Now I want to say thanks so much for sharing, Andre. And I want to move things over. We were in the phone. Let's go to the real world. Super interesting company, Nicholas Volt Iris. Nicholas, can you tell us how you're revolutionizing renewable energy and greenhouses?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Can you see my screen? Yeah. Amazing.
Yes.
Cool. So I'm super excited to be here today to present to you Altiris and how we developed color-optimized solar modules for agriculture. So before we get started, I'd just like to introduce you to Ton. Ton is a standard greenhouse owner. He produces cherry tomatoes. He's in his greenhouse in the Netherlands, and he has a greenhouse of about 5 hectares. Ton has a major issue. It's the energy cost for his gas and electricity. In average, Ton spends about 1.5 million Swiss francs per year in energy. That's about 45% of his overall cost, and that cost has gone up over the last 3 years. So 3 years ago, it was 25%. As you may know, we're in the middle of an energy crisis. The energy cost of gas and electricity remain very volatile and uncertain over the next few years. And of course, the gas that Ton uses is also not sustainable. He emits a lot of CO2 emissions. So there's a solution to that, and that is to produce electricity at the same time that you're going to grow crops. And there are a few solutions that already exist on the market. However, they all have, they have 4 recurrent issues. So the first issue of this is that very often those solutions are going to reduce the crops, the growth of the crops that are below the solution. So for example, if you put a standard solar panel on top of tomatoes, you reduce the crop's growth by about 80%. There is also a misalignment between the time where you're going to produce the electricity and the time where you're going to use the electricity. Then most of these solutions also have a very low return on investment because they have a low efficiency, so low photovoltaic efficiency. And also now there are also a lot of discussions regarding the legal framework for agro PV, but most of the time you need regulatory permission if you want to introduce, if you want to combine photovoltaic efficiency, photovoltaic production with crops and with agriculture. So here comes Altiris. So Altiris basically offers to Ton color-optimized solar modules that we've protected with 2 patents. So in a nutshell, what we do is that we apply a technology that we call spectral filtering. So it means that we filter all the light components from the sunlight, and everything that crops need for growth, that is mostly the red and the blue, we're going to give it to the crops. Everything that they don't need, the waste to some extent, we're going to filter it and concentrate it on a solar cell and produce electricity with it. This is something that is very easy to install in greenhouses. We install it below the roof on structures that already exist above the crops. So we don't need any regulatory permission to install it because it's inside the greenhouse. We're also protected from natural elements. It also has a superior ROI thanks to the high PV efficiency that we protect with our patents. So all in all, we offer to Tom the possibility to better control his costs, to improve the profitability of his operations, and also to improve the sustainability and reduce the CO2 emissions of his operations. In average, what we can do is that we can cover a greenhouse such as the one Ton has with 35% of the surface with our modules. So for a standard greenhouse of 5 hectares, we can install up to 17,500 solar modules in the greenhouse. With this, we can cover about 70% of the energy needs of the greenhouse owner. Globally, it's about 10 billion that are spent in energy solutions by the 12,000 greenhouse owners such as Tom. And this is a market that is booming at the moment. So the surface of greenhouses and also the amount that is spent in energy solutions are both increasing by more than 10% per year. That is expected to remain over the next few years. Our ambition for Voltiris is to sell directly the panels to the greenhouse owners, to install it with them, and to work with about 150 clients by 2027 and grow our sales to around 110 million Swiss francs. Just to highlight the fact that the large scale of a greenhouse translates in huge results for Voltiris. So at the moment, we're preparing paid pilots with our customers, with our, I would say, partners. There are 4 paid pilots that we're preparing at the moment. The overall opportunity from those pilots is about 40 million Swiss francs. So now, of course, we only capture a small fraction of the greenhouse with those pilots. But if we were to increase the size and the share of the greenhouse that we cover out with our modules, that would be around 40 million. And what's very interesting is that this is an industry where very often the greenhouse owners are grouped in cooperatives or in grower associations. So the opportunity that comes from working with the greenhouse owners is about 6 times bigger if we expand within their own networks. Our priorities for the next 3 months, we structure them in 3 different levels. On the first side, on technology, we have to conduct different pilots. We need to do R&D testing, and we also need to obtain necessary certifications if we want to commercialize. On the commercial side, so we're working on our customer pipeline, already anticipating and front-loading all the orders that we're going to have. We're also working on financing models for the greenhouse owners to facilitate the adoption and to reduce the financial burden of using our solution. And of course, we're also working on implementation partnerships. And finally, on operations, obviously, we're currently fundraising. We're also working on our industrialization, and we also like to build our team. Talking about the team, today we have a team of 3 people working on the venture. I think we're very complementary because we have a very strong complement of both business and technical background. So on my side, I've been working for about 6 years for the Boston Consulting Group, also working for BCG Digital Ventures. And Jonas and Dominique have more the technical responsibilities for Voltiris. They have worked in R&D for ABB Hitachi and also for energy in Romand Energy. And they both have backgrounds from the PFL. At the moment, we're looking to raise about 900,000 Swiss francs for a pre-seed round, and that would be to prepare commercialization. We'd use the funds mostly to conduct the remaining pilots, including a large-scale pre-commercialization pilot. We also need some funds to perform all the necessary R&D testing that is on the durability, on the life cycle of our product, and also to obtain the certification. And we also need to bring some key competencies within the team, for example, in managing solar projects or industrialization. And for that, we aim to recruit 4 new employees. Thank you very much. I hope that I managed to get your interest for greenhouses and agriculture.
Absolutely fascinating presentation, and thanks to Antonia for referring. This is one of the ones that Wingman was looking at. This is one that we're looking at and interested as well with Forward.vc, our accredited investor syndicate that's focused on companies just like yours that change the world, make it better, and focus on climate. One question I had for you, you mentioned that greenhouses are expected by 2050. So I did a little follow-up with vertical farming. And how do you see vertical farming affecting that number? How do you see the dynamics of farming playing out in the future? And could that affect your potential growth when it comes to greenhouses? Vertical farms can't use this solution.
Yeah. So at the moment, I will answer in this twofold, right? I see the growth of the greenhouse industry is going to really explode over the next few years because we'll need to feed 10 billion people by 2050, right? So we need to have efficient farming. We need to have, we can also use less water when we have a greenhouse, less pesticide we can produce locally. And of course, with climate change, we can also control the environment, right? So you're also less subject to droughts or storms, etc., right? So greenhouses are going to increase regardless of vertical farming. I still feel that for vertical farming, we could have our solution that works there. And even the genesis of our solution comes from vertical farming. When you work in vertical farming, very often we inject the pink light on the plants, and that's basically what we do, and that's what we filter from the sunlight, right? It's just today our solution would not be compatible, but I think with a few tweaks and changes, it's something that we could work with. So I don't necessarily see it as a threat. And I still feel that in the big scheme of agriculture, vertical farming is still quite small and needs to have some improvements to really be something that is used at scale.
Good answer. Good answer. In terms of future, and then I want to hand it over to Antonia because she was the scout, so to speak, on this one. For you, in terms of outdoor farming, is that just a process of licensing then? Are you able to roll this out at scale?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So the way we see it in terms of our vision is conceptually what we do is very simple. Conceptually, and I would insist on this, is we're filtering the sunlight, right? Now we're applying it to greenhouses because we see that that's where the biggest need is, because they have a huge energy consumption. They need to control their costs. They need to be independent. So that's why we want to go there. Also in terms of go-to-market, as I was saying, for us working with one client is a huge opportunity also. So that's why it makes sense to start there. And our solution is fit to that at the moment. But with a few tweaks, we're very quickly looking at having our solution also working for plastic greenhouses. And we're now discussing with some greenhouse manufacturers that manufacture both, right? So I think it's just a question of time before the moment where we're applying our solution to plastic greenhouses. And then after plastic greenhouses, you have open crops, right? It's just, we have already some solutions that work in open crops. Let's see, I see a less obvious need of energy for open crops, but still it's surface, and energy providers are looking at any surface that they can, if they can produce electricity, right? So of course, it's some things that are there. It's part of our vision. It's just that we have to focus somewhere. And also we've heard that in aquaculture, it's something that could be interesting because some part of the soil components are bad for fishes. They put them at stress, they create diseases. So you could also use spectral filtering to produce electricity and at the same time, if you want to care for fishes. It's ideas that we have there. It's part of the roadmap.
Okay, I don't want to steal all the time and thunder. So Antonia, did you have any great questions?
Yes, I do, but I would actually love to like give a little bit room to Claudius or Thomas, given that I know the company already a tiny little bit. So I would give you priority now.
Claudius, Thomas, what do you guys got? Any questions for Volt Iris?
Maybe for me, interesting would be the timeline a bit for all this. I mean, you're starting with pilots, then you go on with the commercialization. What's the roadmap here or so? But I want to know, how far away are you from achieving all these things?
Yeah, so I think we're very early, and so that's why we call also this funding round a pre-seed. So at the moment, we have a pilot that is running at the Agroscope. It's an industry's project. So Agroscope is the competency center of Switzerland for greenhouses. In 5 weeks, we're going to have a paid pilot in Graubünden, Grison. And then now I'm driving later tonight to the Netherlands. We're going to discuss how to finalize pilots that we want to have in the Netherlands, also to open the market there. Our last pilot, as I was saying, would be a pre-commercialization pilot. And this one, we'll do it in Geneva with one of our partners. It would be around 500 modules. And this one, we're looking at it end of this year, beginning of next year, depending also on our fundraising. But this one, we have the partner, they want to do it, we just need them to have a team, because with 3 people, we cannot do it, right? And as soon as we have finished this, I would say with an optimistic timeline, we would start commercializing within 12 to 15 months. That's, I would say, the earliest when we would really start to commercialize at scale. There are still some moving parts and some loose ends, so that's why now we're working on it, right?
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Great product, by the way, and great pitch as well.
I'm not the technological mastermind. I tell them that you said this.
There's always need for both of them.
So, Nicholas, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm not sure if I missed that or if you didn't mention it, but could you elaborate a bit on your business model? Maybe you can differentiate between the business model for the pilots that you're running now and what is planned for the future.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, we sell the modules to the greenhouse owners with the installation and basic maintenance for 450 Swiss francs per square meter. So a standard greenhouse is 17,500 times this that we could install. And then we do the margin. We work with some partners that work on the execution. What we do is that we source the greenhouses, we coordinate the project, and I would say our value proposition is always to have the best PV efficiency for the modules. But anything related to the installation of the modules themselves or technical also parts of the sourcing, etc., we're going to outsource it. Does that answer your question or not?
Yes, partially. So follow-up question. What's the lifetime of such a module?
25 years.
So you sell it once and then you don't earn anything for 25 years?
Yes. So of course it's part, and that's why I was saying we were working also on financing models, right? So in theory, we also for energy contracting. So it means that we own the modules and then we sell the electricity at a certain cost to the greenhouse owners. They're winning because it's a lot lower than what they had, and they can also very well predict their cost over the next years. It's just in terms of capital flows, it's a bit more difficult for us to put in place because if you want to take debt, you need to have a big, how to say, in accounting, balance.
Big piggy bank. You could look at the NPAL model as well of potentially
so
selling this off and then selling the energy or licensing the tech.
If I were to think about the biggest lever for adoption is to have the best financial solution for greenhouse owners. So really something where we don't ask them to spend upfront the full capex, but more something that is spread out over a few years. And there are a lot of solutions that exist on this at the moment.
Have you considered licensing the IP to people who are already doing the deployments anyways?
Yeah, so that's something that we've considered. Maybe also for some countries, that's something that might happen where we only focus on the hardware. And I think it's up there in all the possibilities. If we have to consider it, something that's there. It's just I feel that also if we want to contain the value and really also work on the relationship with the greenhouse owners, keeping that edge, working more also on how we use the electricity, we have to get to know them, we have to be in contact with them. So that's why it's important for us to keep that part and not just to be a hardware producer.
And maybe then like one follow-up question from my side. So first of all, thank you so much for the pitch. It was very, very nice. So just like, building upon like what Thomas, asked, like, how do you provide like value in the long run? Like after you sold the hardware, like what kind of role does technology play beyond the hardware at your business now and in the future?
That's a good question. So the way I see it is that it's as soon as we get in with the modules, there are a lot of things that we can do on the energy side, right? The energy is a big topic. It's going to continue to be a big topic. There are a lot of things. So now just idea for now, we could put IoT on our module where we say, look, at the moment, we're not producing as much as we should. Maybe it's time for you to clean your glasses because it's very important for them to always have the best light transmission. So if the glasses are dirty, it's time to clean them. And we could predict that with our modules. Also, everything related to production of the electricity, when it's used, how to use our electricity. It's ways where we can go further down the value chain, also really go into deep sustainability and decarbonation role. And here it's almost a consulting that we could do with the greenhouse owner, right? It's just, we have to start somewhere. It's something that's extremely complex. The greenhouse owners in the Netherlands are extremely sophisticated. It's like companies that have hundreds of employees that have all types of solutions that are in place already. So it's not like we could come and say, look, stop with the heating at this hour and use our solution at another time, right? So it's a learning that we need to happen over the years and also as we work with the greenhouse owners.
Once you secure those contracts, you could probably, they're going to need battery technology as well if they're using solar and trying to be clean, then you could potentially have other upsell opportunities as well in the future for that, or for outfitting as they grow and expand, as you mentioned. And most of these are owned by cooperatives that have lots of facilities.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thanks for presenting. Any other questions from any of you guys? Claudius, Thomas, Antonia?
I have one more, but that's more for curiosity. How flexible can you be with the wavelength spectrum?
That's a very good question, actually. So today we're looking at, and that's why I'm saying over the next few years, we want to continue to build our expertise on this. Today we're working with generalist filters. So they can work with not any type of crops, but any type of light-loving crops, right? Because we let through a certain type of race. But the ambition would be that tomorrow we have something that is very specific, so we can always optimize the photovoltaic efficiency, right? So it's something that we could customize for each type of crops, whether you have cherry tomatoes or another type of tomatoes or eggplants, whatever, you could have a different type of filter. And that's the vision and the ambition.
So is there any plans to put that on a window in the future? Because humans as well need a specific spectrum of daylight.
Maybe. So it's just to be sure that I understood the question, you're talking about other applications more for buildings or windows, right?
For example, yeah, I mean, you talked about greenhouses in your pitch, and then in the Q&A that there was some outdoors vertical farming. But what about office buildings where we anyways sometimes have shaded windows?
It could. So just to give you an idea, the filters that we use, they're used. So the good part about our technology is that none of the components is something that we need to manufacture in a complex way. So we very quickly have economies of scale because everything comes from other industries that are already at scale. The filters come from architecture, something that's already used for buildings. It's something that it's just we use it with our own specifications and with our own magic sauce, but our costs to produce are low, and it's something that we could have in other applications. It's just we have to start somewhere.
Awesome. Thanks for the phenomenal presentation then, and thanks for the questions, guys. This is the Startup Tank, Swiss style. I want to move things on. Thank Nicholas, and now we need to move on to Fabian, who's rushing with Rausch and changing the way that we travel, making things a little more social, a little more fun, which post-pandemic, I think we could all probably use a little bit of. Do you want to take over now, Fabian? You are muted right now, Fabian.
Can you hear me better?
I hear you now. Good and clear to go.
Perfect. 21st
Take it away.
21st century, and the microphone's still a problem. First of all, yeah, Fabian D'Agostino, my name. I'm the co-founder of Rausch. And essentially what we believe is that social channels are definitely the new digital Times Square where people are exchanging services and products with one another. Right, but historically, one industry, travel, has not been able to be exchanged between peers, and that's exactly what we're allowing to do. Essentially, what all this beautiful, stunning content, we're making it bookable, where the content creator is able to earn the booking commissions, and this in turn provides this beautiful booking experience, where then you can click on the picture of the content that you view, and it directly takes you to the content creator's booking engine. And you're able to book their tagged flights, hotels, and activities directly within a few simple clicks, compared to what it was before with the 750 clicks across Booking.com and TripAdvisor, whatnot. And so essentially what we're building is the peer-to-peer Booking.com, where our vision is to help anybody who has a travel recommendation to monetize it, where we see that every single content or post becomes a dynamic travel product, and every user's social media profile becomes a booking engine. We're specifically addressing the 90% of millennials and Gen Z who are using social media as their primary source for travel inspiration, but are not able to book from it. And of course, on the other side, the the millions of travel content creators who do not have the tools to sustainably monetize and turn their content and travel hobby into a full-time profession. And this has a rippling effect across the entire travel industry. See, if we're able to crack this peer-to-peer type of exchange or commerce, right, this is going to solve one of the biggest challenges within the travel industry, which is the 65% marketing expense to revenue ratio, right? And that's pretty much, and by doing this, we're able to position Rausch as the cheapest distributor and the highest payout platform. We are a proven team who have quite significant travel and creator economy experience. And I think our execution speed demonstrates our industry and domain experience, since Rausch is only 5 months old. Within these last 5 months, we de-risked the business entirely and signed up the 30 biggest travel content creators to monetize their 35 million fan base. And by connecting them with around 650,000 hotels, 150,000 activities in every flight globally, and to earn those commissions. And that's where we're opening our pre-milestone fundraise, since we're just a few weeks away before achieving post-revenue, and welcoming smart capital to join us to challenge how travel is booked, earned, and sold. Thank you very much for your time.
And thank you very much for your pitch. Thanks for presenting, Fabian. My first big question for you is, who is your target creator customer? Is it the massive creator brands? Is it the people with the millions on TikTok that are getting screwed because TikTok doesn't share any of the advertising revenue? Or is it smaller scale creators that are, hey, mom, dad, look where I went kind of deal? Who's the ideal person using the product?
Brilliant question. And to be honest, I really don't know, right? This 35 million followers is a pure vanity metric. But there's still the trade-off between the following. I think it'll be, the platform will establish itself, and the platform will essentially over time mature, where you have local small creators selling weekend getaways with just a single hotel, versus the mega influencers who have the 25 million followers who are selling these massive 15-day travel trips to Bali, for example, right? When we were speaking with over 100 content creators in the space, we noticed the easiest ones to enter is nearly all, because they're actively searching for ways to monetize, specifically in the travel space. Patreon with patronage, OnlyFans with gated content, even sponsorship deals don't really work for the travel content creator. I mean, we had an agency before, we were negotiating a contract with Nike, and there they even cut the entire budget for creators and for influencers, because they said we don't even pay them, they come to us for free, right? So that was kind of the inflection point where we say, aha. So to get to the point, we are primarily targeting, it's an open play for the 1% or the biggest influencers, and then this will drive the tailwinds to be able to acquire the long tail of the 99.
Understood. I would have more questions, but I want to open up to the other investors, because I know, Fabian, you said you had a time rush on a doctor appointment. So Antonia, Claudius, Thomas, do you guys have any for?
I don't bite.
Thank you so much for the pitch, Fabian, and also like for answering the first question, shedding more light on the benefits for the creators and like really, enabling the creator economy a little bit more. Now, what is your experience that you gathered so far from, like first reception, so to say, from like the profit sharing companies, like, what is their like appetite for this actually? And B, like besides, your supply side, so kind of like the creator economy, like who is your target customer on the demand side?
Perfect. We believe that every single creator is an own SME, right, who represents their own little brand. And that's kind of the concepts of a Web3 or the creator economy in general. Primarily, the easiest way to, the content creators who were super interesting to work with us are primarily TikTokers, right? They're the ones where we have the most beautiful sign-up rates. And if we look at that specific distribution channel, then we'll need to implement tools such as buy now, pay later, simply because the demographics are very young and probably don't have big disposable incomes. That's talking about the business model in the future, but precise. So it really depends on the different distribution channel that we use, because every distribution channel has a different product market fit. Yeah, again, it's really difficult to explain what type of travel we're going to be selling, because it really depends on what that individual stands for, what the content they produce, the geography where they're currently living, and also producing content. It's a really difficult question, but that's really the beauty of this entire model. For example, my best friend now, he's doing his wedding in October in India. So he said, you know what, fuck it, let's spin up a trip for you. And now you can sell this wedding to your guests, which are anybody going to come, 200 people, and you can monetize from the flights, hotels, and activities. Yeah. Also, a friend of mine is doing his birthday now in Ireland. So we spun it up, and now he's selling. His friends who are coming from international, he's also able to monetize from that. So it's not purely a social media play. It's really a recommendation model for any type of user. Yeah.
Is this like me sending my mom an Amazon affiliate link and saying, hey, mom, I know you needed this, so just buy it from me so I get 6%?
That could become it, but it's not, you have to compare us more like Spring. Have you guys heard of Spring? Anyway, Spring is this beautiful new platform. It's a Shopify for the creator economy, where you can create products. It gives you CMS tools, and then you can sell them across the different channels to your specific, to your audience and monetize them. So I don't think it's going to become really a type of affiliate tool. That's exactly what we're staying away from. It's really a business tool that you're doing to be able to monetize and turn your profession into a full-time company.
What's the competitive landscape here? Because I spoke to, what's their name? Backpacker Trail. And of course, it's not exactly the same, but in the end, like this combination of creator economy and allow other people to follow your journey. It seems to me quite obvious right now that you would combine this. So where are you at compared to maybe other players going into this space?
Funny you talk about that precise competitor, because our previous startup, which failed, did pretty much exactly that. So we built out Street Life, which was this digital tour guide where content creators were able to create these guided packages around the city. And what we notice is that content can be repackaged and turned into a product perfectly well. And content is a beautiful acquisition driver. But to actually provide the navigational services to go from one place to the next, right? To research with the content is not really the most important value there. That's why we actually cut that company, because we had this beautiful acquisition strategy of 60,000 users, but we couldn't drive the retention, right? And I think that's kind of really going against that company. I'm not very bullish that content is used for the actual day-to-day experience. It's more really of an acquisition system. Compared to other startups, there are a lot of people who are currently thinking about the creator economy in general and how they can utilize that. But we're truly the one company, sorry, I don't know why I'm showing this slide. We're truly the one company who have this idea to convert content into bookable travel products and your profile into a booking engine. And we've been speaking to the top creators, we've been speaking to the biggest distributors in the industry, and nobody has heard of a similar product like ours. And that's why I'm pretty damn confident that we are currently still in a first mover advantage. And I hope we don't have to raise war chests to be able to dominate the game, because it could be a beautiful model to really empower the world, or to redistribute all these 47 billion in travel commissions to peers, which could lead to the greatest empowerment of travel's history. And of course, technically, if you're helping 200,000 people around the world have a full-time profession, this could also lead to quite an interesting IPO, right? Because there's a lot of people that are involved in it as well. But let's not talk about that. And Thomas?
You mentioned the example of that birthday party in Ireland. So as a traveler, as a friend of that friend celebrating the birthday, what exactly do I buy? Do I buy the entire trip, or do I just buy the flight, or just the hotel, or the cars, or
you can personalize it entirely. So in the demo which I showed you, you're able to remove the flights, you're able to remove the activities, whatever you want, and you can even use a tool to be able to replace with other things.
Okay. So I can stick to my preferred airline because I get my loyalty points or whatever, my flight miles and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So how do you acquire all the operators? For a full trip, you need 5 to 8 operators probably. How to acquire them at scale?
The operators, so Booking.com, Expedia. By the way, I went to Econ Hotel de Lausanne. I did revenue management for several years after that for distribution in the hospitality industry. So this is a little bit of an industry which to understand. And distribution, the reason why there's such huge commissions in the travel OTA world is because there's so many bloody middlemen in between. And we tap also into those middlemen, not consolidators, but they're called bed banks. So Hotel Beds, for example, has what they provide is the ability for Booking.com and also for Roush to be able to sell those beds where they have individual contracts with. We don't really want to become a packaging business. We don't really want to create those. We don't want to make the direct contracts with the end consumer. We want to like to consolidate all those different partners to be able to avoid the zero moment that hotel is not available when a content creator tags that, and 100% focus all our resources, the 200 developers which we'll have, on just making that funnel from impression to booking fucking seamless. That's what we need to do. And of course, the fintech play that you get paid, the provider gets paid, and so on and so forth, right? Yeah, but if you tap into pretty much, we know the numbers. If you tap into 4 bed banks, you have a total size of 2 million beds around the world, right? With Kiwi, we have one integration that gives us to every single flight around the world. Yeah.
That was the missing detail. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the good comment, Thomas.
And with numbers like that, things start to get interesting.
Yeah, that's not the hard part to crack in the travel business. Yeah.
It's the marketing, and you're bringing that because you're bringing the influencers potentially.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thanks for presenting. Do any of other panelists have any other questions before we move on?
Thank you guys very much for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to speaking to you soon.
Thanks so much for your time as well, Fabian. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great one. Good luck with the company, and if anyone's interested, of course, they can reach out at rau.sh, not seha, sh. And now I want to take a quick break before we jump to the next company, just to say this is the Startup Tank Swiss style. I apologize for my connection in background. Unfortunately, I have to be the invisible man because something's going wrong with either the internet or Zoom on my side. But we've got 3 incredible investors here from SICTIC, Thomas Ackermann, the director, Claudius Stanbock from Sparrow Ventures, and Antonia Albert from Wingmen, who brought Volt Iris, one of the coolest companies that you'll ever see, so to speak, and or not see, depending on which spectrums we're filtering. Now I want to move on to our next startup of the night. This is an interesting one I met, and they're trying to solve a sustainability issue of something we've probably all experienced: buying something online and it doesn't fit quite right. Now we've got Footsnap. Footsnap is fixing that for shoes, because the worst thing about shoes is when they don't fit quite right. And then you send them back and it's a terrible environmental nightmare. So Vincent, do you want to take over and tell people a little bit more about what you guys are doing with Footsnap?
Actually, I was going to do the presentation.
Oh, go for it then, Ben. Yeah, go for it, Ben, of course.
All right, and I see I just share the screen here. First of all, I would like to say thank you all who for this opportunity. It seems for entrepreneurs like ourselves. And who are we? Footsnap AG, I think maybe some of you have already heard. We are out to reduce shoe returns, along with providing a sustainable solution and innovating the pre-manufacturing part of the shoe industry. So this technology is certainly for the entire fashion industry, but we are starting it off in the shoe sector, where we have a network of over 600 brands and retailers. Right now, what I'm trying to do is share my screen, and I hope that this works. Can everyone see my screen? I take it so, okay. Right now, I was talking to Vincent, I wanted to go through a full pitch deck, but I would not like to do that. I would like to really bring you through the actual customer journey as to how things really work. So let me start with the problem. As you know, everyone in this room has experienced ordering shoes online only to receive the wrong size shoes at your doorstep. The reason why this is happening, maybe some don't know, is that different brands produce at different manufacturers in different countries. Therefore, 8.5 for another brand. It's constantly changing. For an example, Nike themselves, Nike has collections, whereas one collection size is 43, for an example, is completely different from the other collection within their own house. This causes a major problem of shoe returns. And shoe returns, believe it or not, are a little over 50%. And that's for most brands and retailers. Around 50% of the shoes that are sent out to customers to their homes are returned. 80% of that is specifically due to the wrong size. This is the reason why we came out with an idea. I approached Vincent in the past. He is over LinkedIn, is where I met him. He's in the shoe industry, 25 years, working with shoe care products. So he immediately understood the idea. The idea can simply take their smartphone out, scan a QR code, scan their feet in actual 3D with incredible precision, and we send back to the size to the brand immediately. So I explained to him how that could work, whereas he thought it was a great idea, and we immediately started that. That was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, we stayed under the radar because we did not want to come out with something until we knew the correct technical way. Therefore, now today, we can proudly say we have a POC that is scientific and mathematically proven. I will show you quickly the customer journey for yourself. You're at home, you would like to go online to shop for some shoes. And don't worry, we'll get more into Footsnap itself after that. We would like to just take you straight into the customer journey, okay? You're a customer, I wanna buy a pair of shoes. What I would do would go to a brand web shop. In this case, this is Rish Shoes Web Shop. This is one of our investors who owns the shoe brand Rish Shoes, Agi in Zurich. And we are located in Freienbach, just so you know, Freienbach, Schwitz, in the canton of Schwitz.
Then you need to change the screen.
Can you see the screen?
No.
Oh, I have to share a new one then, I take it. Okay, there we go. So here we are, we're at a brand web shop. In this case, this is Rish Shoes, which is this is a master duplicate of his web shop. We call this the Footsnap Simulation Exercise Portal. This portal, as I said, a master duplicate of an actual shoe web shop, it gives the brand and the consumer the chance to go through it like in a life-like scenario. So that's what we're gonna do now. You are now shopping online at Rish Shoes, which is click shop all, for the time being for our FSE pilot testing portal. We have simply put 3 shoes there. We could take a sneaker Jimmy. Now this is where the major problem begins. It's here. Choosing the color is no issue for the customer. However, the size is always the issue. They can't know it, but the main problem also is the width. Different brands have different widths. Some only have one width, or some can have several. You can't know it. Instead of guessing this, you can simply click the Footsnap push button here and scan our QR code. What happens when you scan it, and everybody feel free to take your smartphone out and scan that QR code if you have a second, but what happens when you scan this QR code, it opens up our web application. We purposely made a web application because we do not want to do any kind of downloading or updating for the end consumer. The consumer scans their feet, with the smartphone. I don't know if I have Vincent on the call here, but I would show you. Has everyone scanned the QR code? Okay, I take it everyone did. Good, I see some heads shaking. That QR code you see now in the application. The application now has a video which shows you how to scan, which is very simple. You're simply standing up, putting an A4 sheet of white paper between your feet for reference point. You're taking your smartphone out, opening the camera. No one's scanning their feet today, I'm just explaining it. But you're opening in your camera and you're starting from your left side, your left foot, and you're scanning around just like this in the middle, all the way to the back. Very simple, very easy. We made it very, very user-friendly. Anybody at any age can do this. What happens is we receive a result. Once the scan is done, the scan will send you back to the web shop. And by the way, it doesn't matter what entry point. You can start from your smartphone and finish your transaction over the laptop, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. We have the entry points built. Now what you will see is a size that comes back to you after scanning. I cannot show you that remotely, but I'm going to show you the results. So we're going to act like as if we scan our feet. Now you have a scan done. Footsnap has your scan. You can literally reuse that scan every single time when you shop online. If we are over that brand's web shop. So here's the result, and I'm sorry that we got to go a little bit fast, but I will explain some things after to make it more clear.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you go a little faster, Ben? We got to make sure everybody's got a chance to present.
Exactly,
as well.
exactly. This is a an actual 3D rendering from one of our smartphone scans.
Other screen, Ben.
Can you see it?
No.
Okay, 1 second. How about now? Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, this is an actual scan from our technology. We would perhaps show the customer this after a scan. We're still debating that. We launched in 2 months into the market and already have some pre-revenue contracts being signed by brands, but we also can look a lot more detailed. This is a smartphone. And with such a scan, we know we can get a precision up to 3 millimeters or less. And with that being said, we are able to not only reduce the shoe returns for brands and retailers, which will save them millions. For example, in Germany alone, 385 million euros are lost in shoe returns, and 80% of that is due to the wrong size. And that's just the shoe fashion industry in Germany. So with that being said, we have found out that with the technology that we have built, we are also able to provide the same solution, not just for getting a customer excited and satisfied of receiving the right size shoes every time, and to reuse their scan and make their shopping experience much more simple. We know we can also use the technology for orthopedic companies. We have a few orthopedic companies that can literally take our scan and they can create a custom shoe for that, or an insole. We can scan the insole, the memory foams, and we can create a 3D rendering, which custom insoles could be made. The CAD companies is also another partner we work with. They have around 1,400 brands themselves per CAD company. This simplifies the actual implementation, because we work with CAD files, which is the actual 3D digital design of the shoe, the inner volume of the shoe, the CAD last is called. With that information, we are able to basically access that CAD data extremely fast and implement it over the brand's web shop without the brand having to go looking for the actual CAD file for their shoes that they want to sell.
Hey, Ben, can I cut in here? We're going to need to end this. Can you just tell us quickly the business model and what the final ask is, and then we can go on to investor questions. Sorry,
absolutely.
But we've got to make sure everybody's got time.
Certainly, certainly. Yeah, so basically the business model is for every shoe scan, for every scan and the match between the shoe that the customer decides to purchase and the actual scan from our technology. We get paid a cost for each match. The actual technology is free for the end user. So this is how we monetize with the technology. The average shoe return rate, just so you know, is 20 euros. Reboxing, restocking, reshipping, quality control. So we charge just a very small percentage of that, and that's from money that they're actually saving. So they're having increased customer satisfaction, along with reducing shoe returns, landfill waste, and most importantly, metric tons of CO2 being put out in the air because of shoe returns.
How much are you raising and at what valuation? Or at least how much are you raising?
We are raising a 1.5 million at a 5.5 pre-money valuation. We'll be happy to give you an actual full investor pitch. We do have that. If one has more questions as far as to how far our network goes and our reach, and I'll be glad to answer questions.
Awesome. Then I want to open it up to our investor panel. Thanks for presenting, Ben. Sorry about having to cut you short. Some of the tough technical difficulties and as well made things a little bit more complicated. So Antonia, Thomas, Claudius, do you guys have questions for Ben? I will cede my questions to you so that you guys have some time.
All right, I'll jump right in. Thank you very much for the presentation, Benjamin. I didn't quite understand how you solved the issue on the vendor side. So as a store, how do I know which box I need to ship to the customer?
I suppose you're talking about an actual brick and mortar store?
Any store. So
online brand?
Oh, so how do you pick the right size for the shoe? How does your technology help the brand send the right shoe to the right customer?
Okay, yes. As I mentioned before, each shoe has a CAD file. It has a digital makeup. From where the shoe is the very beginning of making a shoe, you create the digital CAD file. That CAD file has the exact inner dimensions of the shoe. With that, we are able to add the variables, what's needed to fit the shoe. And from there, we know exactly which shoe it is because there's a serial number per CAD file that matches to each shoe. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, partially. So does the retailer have these CAD files, or is it only the manufacturer?
Yeah, the brands. The brands have the actual CAD files, which is the reason why our first step is to approach all of our brand networks. Contacts, because they hold the actual CAD files of the shoes. The problem is, as I said before, is that they don't know where they are. Most of them have no access or have no idea where to access their CAD files, which is why we're partnered with the CAD file companies to make implementation faster. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, thanks.
What's the accuracy you achieve right now through the scan? So let's say
3 millimeters precision.
3 millimeters.
Yeah, volumetric.
What does that mean? That's very accurate. Yeah.
Extremely accurate. Let's just say it like that.
So on any circumference, there is maximum 3 millimeters of margin of error. That's nothing. If you look at orthopedics, for example, when they do manual measurements, they have a margin of error of 5%. And we're talking about 3 millimeters in total at this stage.
How many millimeters is it between a different size, the different shoe size?
3.5 in general for half a size.
All right, yeah, that is pretty accurate. Good.
Maybe one more.
Any other questions?
Maybe a short one from my side. So, Benjamin, thank you so much for the pitch. So, what are those brands like Nike and the Zalandos of this world like using nowadays? And what are you offering them that makes it like fundamentally better for them?
Yeah, great question.
Vincent, feel free to jump in and answer if you need to.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, first of all, at the moment, what we see in the market is that a lot of companies, they actually are using this. They are trying to please the customer by already helping them to make the return process easier. Yeah. Very recently, we bought 5 pairs of shoes for the family, and the first thing we saw when we opened the box was a return sheet. That's of course not what you want to do. You actually want to solve the problem and not make the problem even bigger. Yeah. And till today, there is no technology out there that does the process like we do. So what do? We create a CAD file from your feet. We have the CAD files from the shoes. We have 45 years of shoe fitting experience, and that's all in the algorithm. And there we do the matching. Yeah. So what do we create? We create like a custom-like fit for any shoe you futuristically buy online.
Also, to add to that is that as I said earlier, the customer can reuse their scan every single time. This is changing the way people shop online for the future, because they're going to kind of see it like sitting inside of a car and immediately buckling their seatbelt. They're going to think it's completely insane to order a pair of shoes without scanning. This is the future. And we are trying to provide not just the solution, but the experience of the customer. So we're trying to change the way that they shop in general, while at the same time reducing shoe returns and innovating the production side of the shoe industry.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
Can I elaborate just short on that?
No, I'm sorry. We've got to move on. We still have 3 more companies.
It's no problem.
I'm really sorry about that, but we've got to move on and give everybody else their turn as well. Thanks so much for presenting, Ben. It's a super interesting technology. It's super interesting for the implications, especially considering just the absolute percentage of, I mean, how many people have bought shoes online? Well, 40% of those are getting returned. I want to move on now to next company of the night, and that's Cedric and Alessandro with Potiio. Sorry, sometimes I switch into German. Potiio is changing the way that school. So this is the era of flavored beverages. I will let you guys take it away. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys have developed, what you're doing, and what you're looking for.
Okay, hi everyone, and Matt, thank you for having us here. So we are Potiio, and we are developing a multi-use bottle with a capsule system for low sugar soft drinks. So worldwide, the drinking habits of the people are quite unhealthy. So people may drink up to 1,000 calories just through the uptake of liquids. And this is a huge problem, obviously. And furthermore, where do they drink these drinks from? It's from one-way use bottles like PET, and through that, worldwide waste is increasing incredibly in the last years. That's why we invented the Potiio bottle. The Potiio bottle, when you drink a soft drink with our capsules out of our bottles, you can drink a soft drink with 30% less calories, meaning less sugars, but you have the same sweetness intensity as in a normal drink. And we don't use any artificial sweeteners, since we only have a mechanic solution. And through our capsule system, we can really reduce the CO2 print by 65%. Right now, we are here stationed at ETH, and we're working with an InnoSwiss grant and an SATW grant. But how does our invention actually work? And for this, let me here comment this very short explainer video. So we make the magic possible with our bottle. You just take the bottle, fill it with tap water, then you add the capsule with a soft drink syrup that's already in it, and then you just start to drink. But when you drink, the syrup doesn't mix with the water, but instead the syrup is directly targeted to your tongue. And with that, we can reduce the sugar content by 30% without lowering the sweetness perception. I hope you could see the video. I had some problems with the picture, but I think you got the track. Perfect, thank you. So when people drink then out of our bottle, all the drinks that are imaginable on the market, they can reduce their calories by 30% without changing their drinking habits. So let me give over to Alessandro for the rest of the talk.
Thank you. So there is no comparable drinking technology at the market for the moment. We see that our closest competitor is Arab, as Matt already told us, but we actually, however, see that as a second mover advantage for us. With our product, we clearly target a B2C market with a circular economy approach. That means that you can recycle all our capsules and you reuse the bottle all the time with tap water or sparkling water. You can see the selling prices of the capsules and our bottles here at the slide, and additionally we try to collaborate with bigger soft drink companies in the near future. That means that we try to put in their soft drinks into our capsules. Our next steps are as follows. We were able to enter into a partnership with a bigger marketing firm, and we tried to set up our crowd selling until the beginning of this summer holidays, or before the summer holidays, sorry. And as soon as we have reached our goal of 1,000 packages sold, we want to start our production. And for that, we are looking for seed funding, minimum 600,000 Swiss francs. This funding is needed to reach our goal to end the production and start first retail test market in Switzerland at the beginning of January 2023, and also to deliver all the orders from the crowd selling to our first customers. In our small company, there is Cedric with ETH and scientist background. There is myself with the financial background, and there is another person, Anurag. He's our industrial designer and former chef cook. And we are in the team, or Professor Eric Wintop is our advisor, and we are actually sitting here near his office, so he helps us with the whole technology approach. And yes, we try to keep it short, so we're open for your questions. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks for the incredible pitch, and thanks for what you guys are doing. I know the sweet tooth is certainly something for a lot of people, and making it a bit more sustainable is always a nice way of doing it. I've had questions with you guys, but we've had a bit of back and forth, so I know the company pretty well. I would love to hear questions from Antonia, Claudius, or Thomas. What do you guys want to know from Potiio?
What capsules are possible? I mean, when I opt for a sweet drink, I usually want to have some familiar brands, like, I don't know, Rivella, Coca-Cola. But with you, I'm a bit limited to whatever you serve, right?
So yeah, at the beginning, it's limited to the flavors that actually we choose, because we want to do the market fit on our own to strengthen our position. But after showing that people really are interested in our product, we then would collaborate with the bigger soft drink companies to be able to also bring flavors on the market that people know of. Mm-hmm.
And additionally, in the first approach, we wanted to focus on just soft drink capsules. In a later stage, we definitely want to go into new markets, like in the nutritional. You can go into nutritional market. You can go into the medicine or healthcare, or as well into coffee market. So I think at the end, this is the cool thing about our business case, is that there's a blue ocean strategy with everything you want to put into this capsule.
Thanks for the question. So let me have a sip in that brain. Makes my mouth a little dry when talking so much.
when talking about money, you might need to yodel. This is the Swiss version, right? We haven't had time for any puns thanks to the technical difficulties. So yeah, what do you see in terms of the recurring revenue business models for something like this? Right now, you're planning to sell the units one off, but I know we've discussed, and I got to imagine that's kind of the roadmap.
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Or was it just a statement?
The long-term business model is then to sell the product with the recurring subscription bundles.
Yeah, that's right. So actually, the bottle is just a carrier that you can fill up the water at home, and you do the ecologic way, not to waste too much. But then the money lies in the capsules that you have to buy new for every bottle that you fill up. Right.
What happens with the capsule after use?
Sorry.
What happens with this capsule after it's been used?
Yeah, the capsule is recyclable. So right now we are looking quite closely at the supply chain. So we have different options, but the most promising option is actually that the capsule is completely made out of PET. So then when you finish the capsule, you can just throw it into the recyclable PET container. Yes, that's important to us, that doing it recyclable. So in the end, it's not possible to reduce the waste to zero. So we do make a little waste with every drink, but that waste should be recycled to 100%.
By a third party, so you're not going to recycle it yourself, like espresso, for example?
No. That's our advantage is that we have a short production, so development to market time, and that's why we want to outsource points like this. So setting up a recycling strategy by yourself that takes years. You certainly know that from Nespresso. I don't know how long it took to set it up, and people are lazy, very lazy.
What's the unit economics on these capsules?
Union economics, what do you mean?
Unit economics, like you sell it for 150. How much margin will you do on each of them? Or it's just too early to say?
Oh, that's obviously we estimated that, but we expect that we can. Let me get the numbers here. We expect that we sell. We sell the capsule for 1 franc 50 Rappen. And with production and filling and soft drink syrup and shipping and packaging, we expect that we lose about 1 franc. So it's a gain on one capsule is about 0.5 francs.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Potiio?
Cool. Good. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a ton for what you guys are doing. I want to move on now to fellow. So next up, we've got the fellow co-host for the Swiss Startups Club, Vincent Erling with Capsley, who's trying to create an equity for service platform, a service for equity platform, and excuse me, helping startups with getting the service providers they need without having to spend a fortune on getting the business built.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot, Matt, for the introduction. And yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter if you call it service for equity or equity for services. Some also call it sweat equity. So there are many different names for it. So I'll try to explain to you in the next 5 minutes what we're doing and also what the possibilities are for investors specifically, as I guess that's what you're also interested in. So service for equity, first of all, it must be done right. It's not a very trivial thing. And we saw that often those deals are set up not in an ideal way because the startup and the service provider are neither investors nor lawyers. So often those contracts are not done very well. What we have learned, though, that there's so many service agencies. So when I talk about service providers, I mainly mean like IT agencies for web development, UI, UX, or marketing agencies. They want to help startups, but they don't know how. So we want to change this and bring them together basically on our Venture Studio platform, where we enable them to work with those startups. The thing is, they can't really do it alone because they focus on those certain niches that they are providing. But together in the network, we can provide many different services that the startups need. And we can see from some examples that venture studios are really successful. You might have heard of the Dollar Shave Club, that was built with Science Inc. and sold to Unilever for $1 billion. Or also Snowflake is actually from the venture studio. So what do we offer? First of all, we are offering a marketplace where we have vetted service providers. So those are all selected partners basically that really help the startups. And we support with the matchmaking and really make sure that the startups find the right business partner there. And we also set up the contracts so that service providers in particular can also use them in their private network basically and don't have to worry about all the legal hassle. So this enables them to onboard new clients a lot faster, especially if the startups come through our platform, they already have the education about the service for equity. And also the service providers can manage all their startups in one place. They can track the service values, create transparency that way, and establish trust, which we believe is especially important if you're working in such a collaboration, which is really like a long-term relationship at the end. So who's behind Capsley? We have experienced advisors, for example, Jan Filcher, who's co-founder of SICTIC, and very active in the startup space. Max, our legal counsel and MBA colleague of mine, who has a law firm here in Zurich, and Basil, who has been many years in the US and also ran a startup there in the Silicon Valley area, who's our tech advisor. What's
hey,
our
Vincent, just so you know, I don't think your pitch deck is updating. I'm still on your home slide of the pitch deck. I don't know if everyone
really?
else is.
I'm sorry about this, and I'll go out of presentation mode. Is it changing now? You're
good now.
Okay, so I showed those screenshots about the marketplace, the contract setup, where you can manage the startups in one place. And this is the team, Max, Jan, Basil, and myself. And now I'm here in the business model. So basically there are two parts. We have a subscription fee for service providers. So they get access to the marketplace, they get access to the contract platform, and they can manage all the startups on their portfolio on the platform. And especially for the marketplace, where we connect the startups to service providers, we charge a commission fee of 10%, and that is on the whole service value. So if they pay in cash, we also earn cash. If they pay, for example, with virtual company shares, which is what we recommend if they want to compensate them with sort of equity, and then we get 10% of that value as well. And this is also how we are building a startup portfolio over time. We are already live. We're already helping startups. We had the proof of concept in June last year. We have a service volume of around 200,000 at the moment. This is actually a picture from the proof of concept last year. So our go-to-market is really to go through events as well. Partnerships with accelerators are very important for us, but also establishing thought leadership through blogs, webinars, and those kind of things, so that really service providers and startups come to us for this model. Our vision is really to help thousands of startups with the scalable platform. And we're starting right now with the marketplace and the service for equity community. The next step is the asset management platform, where startups can compensate all their supporters like advisors as well and employees, and where service providers can manage their portfolio basically. And we want to generate insights from this platform, like how the startups are compensating their supporters and how this is growing over time to generate insights and see how the startups are performing, to then invest in the top performers, which is the final goal, to also create an investment fund. So you can see that investors are very very welcome to join us. What we provide is sort of like an operational VC, because you get access to this great support network for startups in all the different areas. You can get access to the deal flow and the insights that we will generate about the startups, and also get a financial return even. So if you are interested in this, obviously I'm happy to discuss afterwards. Okay, so this is it. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Awesome. Thanks for presenting, Vincent. The super interesting model. You're kind of flipping the venture studio on its head, so to speak, and letting others build the studio, and then you have the venture. I like the model overall. What challenges do you see in terms of selection bias? So I know with certain models, generally the startups that can't raise funding are oftentimes the startups that don't deserve funding. How do you handle that approach with Capsley and with your screening process?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, at the end, there's a screening process from us at first, but we have relatively loose rules, right? Because at the end, it's also the service providers who decide who they want to work with. So, we also have this, I guess, similar to even maybe you could say SICTIC business angel platforms. You have a bunch of investors there, but it doesn't mean that they're funding every startup, right? So it's the same with service providers. Just because they're on our platform and they're in general open to invest in startups doesn't mean that they take on every startup. So there's sort of the selection from our side, and we try to make sure that that the founders are able to validate their business model, to set up the hypotheses, to really test this, and then come to us when they need additional support, when they want to execute things a lot faster, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that they need to have co-founders. So this is maybe where we are different to traditional investors, because we believe you can, in certain most ICT businesses, you can probably replace a CTO and have much faster MVP development with an agency, set up a website a lot faster, even if you have a CMO who doesn't have experience with websites, probably, because you can't cover all of this. So this is where I believe there's really an advantage of working with agencies, and where they can have impact on the startups and make them successful faster, basically.
Understood. What other questions do we have? We have to say goodbye, unfortunately, to Antonia. She has another commitment that she needs to jump off to. But Claudius and Thomas, what questions do you have for Vincent and what he's doing with Capsley?
Maybe quick question. So you have this matrix on your website with all these different services, right? Mm-hmm. Which are the ones that are most demanded right now, or like for your market research? Which one you think will be the most demanded ones?
It's right now it's mainly marketing, like digital marketing services, and also IT development. Mm-hmm. This is also what we focus on. So we focused on digital services, basically, where we also believe they are bigger size projects and where the service providers can really have an impact.
Okay.
And how do you make sure the startups don't get taken advantage of by service providers? That's the other flip side of the question that I would have.
Right. This is also very important. That's something we've also seen in the beginning with those service equity deals, that I think one of the main mistake, and but what everyone is doing naturally, they want to figure out how much equity do I get, for giving you those services, and then you start negotiating about percentages, and you quickly come to like 5 or 10% or whatever, but you don't even know yet what services do they need to provide. Is it going to be a long-term relationship, and so on. So this is why we try to improve this through our process and through the contracts. So basically, you always start with a service agreement that defines what is the project scope and what's the market value of those services. And then you can agree on how much of that value can be invested. And then you have a clear investment number, right? And then it's not invested at this moment. So when you start, but after 6 months. So you know what a convertible loan is. So it functions kind of like this, right? So we would also put a valuation cap or a discount in the service agreement, so that later on this investment value can really be converted at like normal terms, basically.
Understood. And any type of service vesting, so to speak, in terms of the service providers needing to stay on for a certain amount of time. The only thing worse than getting something built is getting something built and then not being able to do anything with it, become just left.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I got the question. You mean if the service that are provided are bad?
If there's any longer term service associated with that. So for instance, I want to get an app built and I find out later there's bugs because I don't find out initially, or I need updates, etc., and changes made. And the perfect team that coded everything is now AWOL.
Sorry, it keeps cutting out, at least for me, but okay, if you need like further development after the initial project, I think, so yeah, we usually define milestones, and at first you maybe define a smaller project, and maybe the investment amounts differ over time as well. Maybe at first you want the startup to pay a little bit more cash, maybe then you have tried a high investment, and over time the startups pay you normally, right? Because they generate revenues or have fundraising then. And yeah, I mean, you can also decide to quit the collaboration and get those app developers in-house over time. So this is the IP is also regulated in our service agreement. So to make sure that always the startups have the IP and not the service providers.
Thomas and Claudius?
Yeah, Vincent, thank you very much for the presentation. We've known each other for a while. Just one question actually that came up here. You mentioned portfolio returns for investors.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? So is that investors who invest into Capsley, or are you running a fund on the side, or can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what I mean with this is basically the portfolio that you could say we are sharing the commission fee with you or with certain investors who become a member of the Capsley platform. So we take the 10% commission fee on each deal, right? And so that's how we built up the Capsley startup portfolio, where we know without investing money, that's just our business model. And the returns on this is what we will share with certain members, basically, of the community. So that's just a financial return, basically, on a membership model. But what you get with the membership model are also obviously access to all the platform, to the deal flow and those things. But on top, you get a financial return.
Okay. Claudius, any questions from your side? Because I have another one.
There you go. All good.
So one thing that you didn't mention, I believe we discussed this in another setting. How is the acceptance among investors of these startups? So startup applies for your platform, obtains a service in exchange for equity. Then you have the service provider or Capsley on the cap table. How does that affect the fundraising efforts of that startup?
Yeah. So first of all, they're not directly on the cap table. I mean, with virtual shares or phantom stocks, I mean, it dilutes the service providers, but it makes the admin a lot easier, right? Also setting it up, the contract and so on, but also later on because they're not on the cap table. So that's already a good thing. And then I feel like right now, still that there are like these two camps of investors. Some don't like it so much, and some absolutely have no problem with this and are happy that there's like a support network for startups. We even got contacted by some business angels who were like, we need to support our startups. But so it's hard to say. And it's also small and big investors. I mean, you see those venture studios like, Rocket Internet is a bit extreme example, but they take huge amounts of the startups, right? I think those startups didn't have problems with fundraising.
But they build the whole business. It's different versus someone just being a service provider. That would be one pushback I would have is the venture studios, the Rocket Internets, they are the team and then they spin the team out.
Exactly. So yes, it depends. That's the typical venture studio approach, right? That you would build this in-house, and this venture studio would have a large chunk, and the founders, they would basically hire the founders, and they would just have a smaller share. Yeah. But
so you always do virtual shares. Did I get that right?
Pardon? Can you repeat, please?
You always do virtual shares. Did I get that right? Or phantom stock?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
That's what we recommend So that's also where we help the startup to set up a PSOP or VSOP, if necessary.
Awesome. Then if there's no other questions, I would move it on to our last startup of the night. And before we jump into that company who's making me a little hungry, I want to say thanks, Vincent, for presenting.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And then for everyone who's tuning in, apologize for the technical difficulties that we've had this far up to this point. I'm Matt Ward. I'm the host of the Startup Tank. We'll see if the video works now. I run Forward VC, early stage accredited angel syndicate, focus on pre-seed, seed stage companies moving the world forward. Think climate, think impact, think businesses that legitimately make the world an awesome place. Those are the kind of companies we invest in. To learn more about us, potentially join our syndicate, or look at some of the deals and companies we've got in the works, so to speak. There's a couple interesting ones in the food tech space. Visit forward.vc. So that's the number 4, ward.vc. We invest in companies that move the world forward. And this next company might be doing just that. We've got Blue Salmon on the program. Blue Salmon is a Swiss company that's, as I said, making me a little bit hungry as we're running into the dinner time for people who haven't eaten. Vincent, you are up. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Blue Salmon and what you guys are doing?
I guess Phil is the Vincent you meant.
Phil is the Vincent I meant. Yes.
Yes.
I apologize. Sorry, I was talking to the other founder on the team, and things have been thrown together. Met Phil through Conda. They're actually on there doing a crowd equity campaign now for Blue Salmon, and I will let him tell you and take it away.
Perfect. I hope you see my screen. Swiss Blue Salmon, we are an early stage company, and what we want to bring to the table, so to speak, is salmon without the typical problems. So what problems do we have currently with salmon is that actually salmon is a very interesting fish and a very healthy fish, but it's most of the time not as sustainable as you would expect. That has 3 main reasons. One is that traditional salmon farming, which is done in net cages in the sea, has many negative impacts on the environment, which involves the escape and mixing with the wild population. And it includes also the parasites and etc., which have to be combated with antibiotics, which then again goes to the environment. And a second part is that wild salmon also contains microplastic and parasites. Also, a wild salmon, especially for a country like Switzerland, has to be flown or shipped pretty far away, which is also bad for in terms of CO2. Which brings me to the third point, which is the long transportation. Sometimes you even have salmon that's kind of picked up in Alaska and then flew to China to be processed and then back to Switzerland for production. So that's actually the problem that exists. The solution that we are using to solve that is called recirculating aquaculture systems. So we are basically taking the farming of salmon away from the whole environment and farming it in tanks, totally land-based, from egg until the salmon is reached. These systems have been around for a while, but have now massively improved in the last years. And the main advantages of such a system is that 99% of the water is recycled, so it actually uses doesn't use much water. And since you're completely away from the environment, it really is free from parasites, antibiotics, or microplastics, because you really have the whole production under control. And what we are aiming at is to build the smartest farm in the world, and in Switzerland for local usage, which means the only transportation that will be left is the local transportation within our beautiful country. Why salmon as a species? Salmon is actually a pretty healthy and efficient provider of protein. And I picked out 4 of the main typical things you look at when you look at different species. One is the feed conversion, which means when you give an animal 1 kilogram of feed, how much protein will it generate? And salmon is there on the highest side compared to all the others. It has a very fair CO2 footprint, much better than beef or pork, and in a similar range than chicken. And it has a low water consumption, which to some degree is funny because it's a water species, but as said, since 99% of the water is recycled, it really needs much less water than the land animals. And it's also very decent in terms of land space, only in this specific aspect beaten by chicken, which also has other reasons why it's probably not too good to have the chicken very condensed. So this is why we want to produce salmon. We have found a location. We are still very early in the process. I will share with you the process, our progress in a moment. What we have done so far is we have found a location. Location is the most important thing to have an efficient salmon farm. And we scanned about 30 locations to finally come up with a location near the Walensee. That's a lake, an alpine lake, which is very deep and has a lot of very, very clean water. And we mostly need the water, not because of the system itself. As I said, 99% is recycled, but to cool down. We want to make it as efficient as possible. And if we cool down with water, we need much less electricity. And also for other reasons, this is a very good location. It's located close to Zurich, close to many of the towns, and has a very good logistical aspect and a great location. If you look at our business plan and the milestones, the company was founded in 2020, but we started work already in 2019. And within our seed phase, we have done feasibility studies, found a location, hired a key management, most important person being the CTO, Sune Möller, which we could hire, who has a lot of experience in aquaculture, and there's not many people with such experience in the world. And we also selected the world leader of a RAS supplier and other critical suppliers. So that's where we are at the moment. We have had discussions with the market side and have offtake a letter of intents from large fish dealers in Switzerland, etc. And we are entering now the design and permitting phase to actually bring our project from throughout planning until building permission. And for that phase, we are looking at raising about 5 million. And after this phase, for the next few years, we will be constructing, and in parallel also starting off operations. We will build in phases, and this will have a cash need of 160 million. We have had a lot of discussions with funds in that area, and that's actually within the sweet spot of most of aquaculture funds and similar, so that we believe actually the Series B is gonna be well possible. The first salmon will finally come out in the end of 26, and this is also pretty much the break-even point, because salmon takes about 2 years to grow. We will put it in a new batch every 2 months, which means as soon as the first batch comes out, we will have revenues ramping up to about 50 million per year, starting the year 27. So I try to keep it short. It's a very complex project in a very short time. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the CTO of the company, and yes, this is our core team, which is Rudolf Rief, our CEO and founder, me as a CFO, and Sune Möller as the CTO. We are currently running a crowd investment campaign to bridge us towards the planning phase, to bridge the first phase. In parallel, we are also having discussions with project partners who would go, now I don't know the English word, Vorleistung, who would finance a certain part of the Series A cash need, but we are still in need of a significant amount of money and open for any discussions.
Awesome. Thanks for pitching, Phil. I think the biggest question I have here is around defensibility and the go-to-market. So is the model then just by producing the salmon that it's commoditized enough that you'll be able to sell at market rates?
Yes, two things. It's first off, will be producing a salmon which is of unbeatable quality, secondly, what's important also is that it has a longer shelf life because it's locally. That doesn't need to be frozen and brought into the country. It actually within 12 hours it can be in any place in the closer area, which gives it a better freshness and a longer shelf life. And from the Swiss market, by the year 32, we expect to take up about 8% of the market. Salmon is the most eaten fish in Switzerland. And 20% of that production, we already have letter of intents from large fish dealers who are also willing to take much more because the market is moving in that direction in terms of having a fish that's sustainable and locally produced. So it meets a big demand in Switzerland.
How do you tackle the salmon and the egg problem, so to speak, of you had so much money and funding just to get the project started to be then able to go forward? So for instance, you were looking at 900,000 and then a $5 million Series A without, there's not really a product, there's not really something there. And then finally, once you had product for selling, that was a Series B of 160 million, which is enormous. This isn't a traditional software scale business. What type of investors are the ideal investors for something like this?
It depends on the phase. So first off, the seed phase is already completed. So the 900,000 we already raised. If you look at the 160 first, because that's the elephant in the room. For the 160, typical investors would be infrastructure investors on one hand side and specialized aquaculture funds. And we have talked to a lot of them, and where we are a bit is in they typically come in when you have the construction permit. And once you have the construction permit, you also have a debt ability. So it's not all equity of those 160. The majority of the 160 million is capex, which is debtable to a certain degree. And to tackle that part, actually, we have a significant interest from different parties, and this goes from known and probably maybe to you surprising partners like Siemens or to investment bankers who would be willing to structure that piece. So in that sense, we have quite a list of people or institutions that have an appetite. Talking about the 5 million we need to get there, the typical profile would be more on the entrepreneurial side of companies and privates who are willing to take an extra risk to bring this project over this construction permit line, which is the most important milestone for us.
For instance, business angels like SICTIC and possibly large funds like Migros that are associated with food. So I'm going to hand this over to you guys. What questions do you have for Phil? Because I think you have more relevant experience or networks and skill sets here to contribute.
I think it's a bit, as you said, like it's just so asset heavy that it's not the classical venture capital case, I say.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for the first round, fair enough. Maybe there it is, but afterwards, you need other type of financing. It's actually the sources you're tapping into. But did I understand this correctly? Like besides the financing part, with your construction, it's going to be this one construction site. You will be able to serve 8% of the Swiss population.
That's correct. 8% of the projected market need of salmon. So we will be producing about 3,400 tons of round fish. That's the full fish, which converts into about 1,900 processed fish. We will do some of the processing at site, which is the filleting and head-on gutted, which is the fish without the how do you say, the interior? I'm missing the word in English. Sorry about that. And we'll be ramping up production from 26 to 32. And in the year 32, we expect to be covering about 8% of the market. Yes.
It's a bit a similar concept to, what was the name? Lucky shrimp, right? But just for salmon.
Yes, and really a high focus on two things. How we differentiate ourselves is first off in being very sustainable, and secondly of being very smart. So since we're starting from the green field, we are onboarding smart companies using smart technology to really drive forward the smartness. As an example, we'll be controlling our feed with sensors that can detect whether the salmon is hungry or not. And this has two aspects. You don't feed him when he's not hungry and the food just goes through the water and you have to filter it out again. And secondly, it's more healthy and brings a higher animal welfare for the salmon because he's only fed at the moment he is hungry. And this is technologies we are bringing in thanks to our very knowledgeable CTO.
I think in the end, that's what it will all break down to the technology risk, that you'll be able to execute it and that you'll be able to scale it up to the full ramp in the end.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't call it the only risk. That's a bit far-fetched.
Of course, many risks.
There's many risks, but we have identified, I think, about 160 risks. We have a risk mitigation table with about 160 risks in 4 categories, and that would be project risks, that is, delay in projects, etc., etc. The typical risks you see, let's say we have a delay in receiving a construction permit, etc. Over to operational risks and technological risks, as you say. Yes, we have a very detailed table and have identified and found measures to mitigate those risks. Yes.
I have a question on your financials. If I remember correctly, you mentioned 50 million revenue by 2026.
Yes.
or something like that. So is that up to full capacity then?
Well, not by 2026. It's starting 2026. So we are having the first fish in 26, and we'll ramp up to 50 million by 2032. It could be that I wrote it wrong in the slides because it was very short notice. I had about an hour time, but
the 50 million is the full the whole farm running at full capacity.
Yes, at with contingency, but yes.
Okay. So beyond that, any way to scale that further, or is it then really the linear business model, basically setting up a new factory, a new farm to bring the next 50 million?
There is several possibilities to expand. First off, if we stay at the farm itself, which is on the right side in this slide, I quickly pulled up again. What we are also looking at is at we call it nose to tail concept. So we don't only want to sell the part of the salmon that typical consumer would eat, like the fillet, etc. But we want to use all the other parts. In the beginning, we are starting with two things, which is pet food, and also working together with a company that's connected to us to take the cut-offs, the Abschnitte, and make them to tartar, etc. But in the longer run, there is a lot of interesting products you can do with parts of the salmon, like collagen for the women. You can extract, or you can use the blood for plasma, etc. And we are setting up the processing in such a way that we separate all the also the guts, etc. That we separate everything to be able to serve different concepts in that area. So that's one thing. And the other thing is we will be looking at expansion. Actually, the moment we start construction, we'll be looking at expansion, because we have put together a team that is able to plan such a site, and the planning periods are pretty long. So we will we have a plot on the left side there, which is labeled expansion, where we could do other species or the same species and further expand.
And what about expansion into international markets, franchising, etc.? Is that something where you're purely focused on Switzerland? Is DACH region a topic?
We are not pure. Well, let's say yes and no. The project in its magnitude it's now it's currently in the financial model and in the business model a closed project for the farm itself. But what will naturally happen is as we evolve, we will have a team that's able to multiply its knowledge, and we have many of the planning instruments we are using and we are building, and also the smartness we are bringing in. We will be able to multiply that also internationally. So that could very well be an avenue of an expansion. But we're still too early stage to actually have that on a larger scale on paper.
Understood. Plus, with the amount of money and capital it takes, it is a slower process to plan out. No point going too far into the future.
Yes.
Any other questions from you, Claudius or Thomas?
No, thanks.
Awesome. Then thanks for presenting, Phil. And now we would move on to the last part of segment of the show, so to speak, and that is crowning a startup of the night, so that we can all go and have some dinner and enjoyment and a little bit of rest and relaxation. So Antonia had to turn off, but I have her picks already. But first I would hand it over to you, Claudius, and to you, Thomas, for your feedback on the companies, what you had to say, any thoughts and questions, anything you wanted to add, and then rankings.
Matt, can you clarify based on what exactly do we rank?
In terms of the companies, how would you rank from 1 to 3, or at least a top pick for most promising, most interesting company of the night? Which one got you the most excited and why?
Okay, thanks. Claudius, feel free to go first.
I'm thinking.
I can go first if you guys are both thinking. So for me personally, I would have to give it to Voltiris because that's the company that's most near and dear to my heart in terms of what they're doing. I also see it as the one with probably having the largest upside and potential for overall business. That I think they had an $18 billion TAM currently, projected to 15x by 2050, and that's assuming that we don't go all in on really going renewable. I think that there's a huge potential there, and I would have to give them my my startup of the night the vote, so to speak. We'll see if I need to give it a second place or not. Are you ready, Claudius?
Yeah, I'm ready. So I wanted to go for that one as well. Second place would be the one with the shoes, actually, because we're looking at these companies as well. I think it was Footsnap. Yeah, I'm not sure about their exact implementation. That will work like that, but we're looking at this space in general as well. Also for like apps where you can scan all not only shoes but like fashion in general. I think there's a lot of potential, since in fact the returning problem is just so big in this industry. So yeah, I think this space is really interesting.
I'm a pretty big fan of that one too. The pitch was a little bit I think it could use a little bit of work for an investor style pitch, but in terms of the product itself, the product is it's a pretty cool product. It's solving a huge issue, and maybe it would be interesting for Migros. I know you guys do a good bit of shoes. And Thomas, on your side, do you have any votes, any thoughts you would like to share?
I mean, they all have their pros and cons. I would say Voltiris is also one of the most interesting ones from a technology point of view. I do have a bit of questions / concerns on the business model, because it doesn't look like a very scalable business model from what I've heard today. But I'm sure there's room for innovation and maybe, as we discussed, also other use cases for that technology that could actually turn it into a more scalable business model. Other than that, I'm intrigued by, I cannot even read my notes anymore. Riash. What was the travel?
He had to. I think it's Roush, but I'm not sure exactly the pronunciation.
Roush. Okay. Roush. It's interesting because nobody has really figured out the influencer market yet. From what I've seen, it's totally not my space. But I think if it's a moonshot. So if someone can actually figure out how to make money for influencers and how to leverage the whole social media frenzy, that could be super interesting. Whether or not this will be that case or someone else, that's a question then that nobody can answer at this moment.
I think if they can do it without feeling super spammy, like you're trying to sell your mom a vacation trip, then it could work really well.
That's exactly the thing, because right now you always have to kind of work with these commands. Now you can, hey, here's my lotion and here's the link to my sponsor. But if you can make it more organic, then that could be super interesting.
You mean like if there was a token, so it was incentivized, almost like religion with money, that could make it interesting as well. We'll see where they go. But I think Antonia said her startup of the night was also Voltiris, with number 2 being Potiio. So then I think we're a consensus. Voltiris is. I'm not sure if it's Voltiris, or they're Voltiris. I'm not sure the exact pronunciation. What is it, Nicholas?
In French, you say Voltiris.
Voltiris. Perfect. Voltiris. Well, Voltiris, congrats for being startup of the night. Thanks for presenting and doing an incredible job. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for presenting companies, for coming on, sharing. I know it's hard to get on here. It was a nightmare with the technology. So thank you for anyone who stayed with us through this. I apologize. That's what happens when you get a new laptop and you reinstall Zoom. But I promise things will be better on the next edition of the Startup Tank. The next edition, we're focused on climate and impact. If you haven't subscribed, thestartuptank.com/YouTube. Be sure to hit that subscribe bell so you never miss a thing. Or you could visit us on thestartuptank.com, learn more information and apply. If you're a startup that's looking for funding, that's a great place to do it. And if you're an investor that's looking for more companies like this or more interesting climate and impact companies, check out what we do at Forward VC. That's ward.vc. We invest in companies that move the world forward. And now, Claudius, Thomas, where's the best place for people to find out what you do, and possibly reach out for funding?
Go ahead, Claudius.
I mean, pretty obvious, either through our webpage or just send me a message directly over LinkedIn. That should be all good.
Yeah, our website is SICTIC.ch, so CICTIC, both for startups as well as for interested investors. Find all the information there, and you can apply directly online.
And thanks to both of you and to Antonia for participating in this segment of the Startup Tank Swiss edition. Hopefully this has been fun. Hopefully we facilitate a little bit of capital into the system, because there's great founders, there's low valuations, and there's tons of innovation and talent here. So thanks everybody for presenting. And now I think it's time for us to say good night. Cheers and bon appetit.